So you'll see everybody in here.
Okay, why don't you sit here so you can come and peek without, oh, take that stuff in. Okay, so are you guys still able to see my presentation?
Yep, we are.
You'll see everybody in here.
Okay, leave that here. Okay, why don't you
Yeah,
sit
if you
here
just want to
so
see,
you can
or I
come
guess
and
you'd have to click on
peek without,
attendees to see.
oh, take that stuff in.
Okay.
Okay, so are you guys still able to see my presentation?
Yes. Yep, we are.
Okay, leave that here. Okay, why don't you
Yeah,
sit
if you
here
just want to
so
see,
you can
or I
come
guess you'd have to click on attendees to see.
oh, take that stuff in. Okay, so are you guys still able to see my
And then go
live?
broadcast.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to ExQ's webinar. Today's topic, very popular and exciting to have this amazing group of friends who also are my peers raising children, trying their darnest best. So welcome to the podcast. Our topic today is parenting during a pandemic, teaching and modeling effective executive function skill strategies, living those strategies, and then kind of helping our children do the same. Let's kind of get started with this idea that, this is not the first pandemic in the world. A big whoop. Many pandemics have happened and people have survived and lived through it. But one particular one that stands out in the passage of time is the bubonic plague during Newton's time. And what's so interesting about it, that I want to kind of tell you what Newton happened to do. He was in college, so he was sent home 60 miles north from Trinity College, and he went into isolation. And look at the title of my slide, Achieve Much, He certainly did so much with what he was given. He discovered calculus, or rather connected new insights across the vital areas of mathematics. He took the time to discover new physics, again, connecting space-time continuum. Then he discovered universal gravitation, the famous apple falling from the tree. And finally, I do not recommend this for anybody, but he stuck a needle in his own eyes to see how the light and lenses work. So why am I telling you this amazing story of Newton? Because Newton is not the golden standard. So how can our kids make the most of the pandemic and not try to become Isaac Newton? By the way, there was a wonderful article in New York Times that talked about that Newton was a genius and he had this curious mind and he had this habit already. It was just the isolation that gave him a little opportunity to kind of contemplate on the things that he was thinking about. So American families are more like this Barbara Smalley's cartoon here from New Yorker, pressure, under pressure, caution, under pressure, caution, under pressure. So you see in my parentheses, I have put pre and during COVID. So let's not just blame it all on COVID. We have a very hectic lifestyle. We are trying to do a lot more than people 100 years ago did. And hence this topic is so pertinent, because are we going to do something different? And how can very, very accomplished or parents who are trying to bring a balance into their lives can manage the pressure of COVID-19? So it's a great pleasure to introduce three of my darling friends, Brandy Katan, Gayatri Desai, and Beth Briss. So welcome. Wanted to kind of kick us off with, I asked you this question. So my first question for all of you is, during the past several weeks, since your spouses, your children, and your work has come home, what has sent you over the edge?
I can go first. This is Beth, if you want me to. I don't know if you care. Okay. Just my middle schooler keeps missing his Zooms that are scheduled, he can't seem to retain the information. It's not malicious or naughty. He just can't remember to get to his Zooms.
And how is that creating stress for all of you?
Oh,
Well,
my kid is the same.
his schedule is my schedule. I don't know if you're having the same, Brandy, but I have to walk by before a Zoom and be like, where are you planning on taking that Zoom? Or
Yeah, I have similar problem. I have a middle schooler as well, and I am also working from home. So I try to get him up and do the things to get him going, but it's sort of like he knows that he has a Zoom, but sometimes he's like, oh, is it on Wednesday at 10:30? And I'm like, use your planner to like put it in the planner, but he's not very thrilled about utilizing a planner. And I think the lack of the structure, the daily, hourly structure that maybe he gets, when he's at school, it's hard enough for him to use the planner there. It just isn't seeming to connect. So, it's like, whoops, I missed that one, and it's like, wow, so it's kind of, that puts me over the edge. Like, you can't show up to that one Zoom.
Well, it's not just one Zoom, as you know, it's a Zoom here, assignment there, changing times, finding those kind of, I guess, codes you have to have. How about you, Ga? What are you noticing? What's creating a little bit of a stress at your end?
Yeah, so when this whole thing started, I was just overwhelmed because, the homeschooling thing. I have a 7-year-old, so obviously has no idea what her schedule is. And I'm trying to handhold her, get myself to learn Google Classroom. At the same time, I'm working, and work is extra demanding because everyone wants to be so super efficient, at home, and, meetings at all sorts of times. So it's been so interesting getting all this new learning, and at the same time, making my daughter feel a little more independent in doing her work. At the same time, not trying to lose my cool while I learn her assignments and learn who the, what the 3 levels of government are, or whatever I need to teach her. So it's been overwhelming when it started off, but we're slowly trying to get the hang of it. So I'm really excited to hear what Suchi has to say.
Well, thank you. So let's go to the next question. What unexpected, surprising things you have discovered about you, your kids, your entire family unit, or maybe even your little universe?
I'll take that one for
Yes.
one. So right at early times, I guess, it was pretty exciting that it wasn't exciting that I was going to have my birthday during this time. And so having like a birthday during this pandemic and kind of like doing that birthday differently was really surprising to me. I mean, I work, and so I'm on Zooms a lot and sort of this kind of format, but I had like 2 birthday calls with like friends from all over the country, in different parts of my life, and they, 10 people get on the phone and hi, I'm so-and-so, I know Brandy this way and that way. And then, I also had some friends put like signs in my yard, like you've seen for the parades, and just seeing people was so surprising to like have people come, socially distanced and sharing this day with me was really like, normally we have a hard enough time just getting to a dinner, that we plan for our birthdays. And now all of a sudden I was just inundated with these rich and meaningful phone calls, with people like we're doing here. And then all of a sudden people and neighbors coming out and convening, in a different way with my kid and taking pictures socially distanced. But it was really surprising how like, wow, maybe I should do some of this next year, just like this.
I love that. I love that everybody took the opportunity to do something special. And what I'm noticing is people have to be very creative to maintain a social distance, because the very essential thing we know to celebrate somebody is to be with that person. So it's so fascinating. How about you two?
So what I have noticed during this time is that we have a lot of time, and we're never in a hurry to go anywhere. And I realized what a bottleneck that was for any sort of creativity or any sort of actual, relaxing. anything we wanted to pursue was so difficult before, because from 6 in the morning till 8:30 in the night when the kids are in bed, it's just boom, 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 going from one thing to another. So an example of this is my daughter has been trying to learn how to ride a bike for the last year, and excuse me, get off her training wheels. And we tried, we used to go every weekend, and we would give her like 30 minutes because that's the time we have, and she would not learn. And because of the time that we had now, we could give her a whole weekend, no hurry to get home, lunch will be prepared whenever it has to be prepared, nowhere to go, and she learned it. And now she's been biking every day. And so this luxury of time, I'm loving it. It's a pleasant surprise.
Your story reminds me of a friend of mine. We had a Zoom last week, and she was saying she has a 3.5-year-old who she was not successful in toilet training. And the husband and wife both were so busy that they just said, you know what, let's just keep him in diaper as long as we can. And within 2 weeks, the kid was toilet trained. And she just couldn't believe, simply by being home and making that as a priority, they actually had the time to do it. So fantastic story. How about you, Beth?
Well, I've had a lot of the positive impact that I know a lot of people are talking about, time with nuclear family and so forth. But very interestingly, even though I don't find myself to be anxious or nervous, or I'm actually sleeping fine, but I'm finding myself really, really foggy. And so I imagine maybe what children are feeling, that are overwhelmed by all the tasks from school. It's just after about 1 o'clock in the day, I really cannot accomplish terribly much.
Oh, I think that's another good point. I was just on a call this morning, and I was sharing that I am exhausted. And we'll talk a little bit about this. My boundaries between the day ending and evening beginning, or evening ending and my chill time beginning, there are no boundaries anymore. It's all
Yeah.
it's bleeding into each other, and it's creating incredible havoc. So, well, let's get started with this. The next most important question: as an expert, what can I help you with? And what are your pressing concerns that we can all take care of and address?
Yeah, I can go first. So one of the questions that I had is, as I said, my daughter is 7 years of age, and how can us as parents, help the kids keep their own schedule, hold them accountable?
That is such a great question. I think this goes back to this idea of, what should be the priority of parenting during these COVID times. And to me, the most important priority is to instilling some sense of independence and agency. So the idea there is, can your child feel that he or she is in charge of his time, his task, and his goals? Now, what may be hard is the goals are infinite and time feels like it's infinite, but that's not the case. So first thing I would do, and don't feel that you are enabling your children, but make a priority that making a schedule, a collective schedule and individual schedules should be a priority. So help children with that. Don't abandon them or feel that you're helping too much. Second is, I will say, bring back the elements of the school. So first one is wake the children up as if the school begins at the clock. So no excuse that you cannot sleep in during Monday through Friday, no sleeping in. And the school ends by 3:30, and there's 1 hour of homework, and then school ends. So kind of define these kinds of bookends for your child's time. That will really, really be helpful. Second is create a schedule, including home recess. So kind of have your children define what the recess looks like. Recess could be watching a show. Recess could be going outside. Recess could be actually like taking out all the pots and pans and maybe drumming. I don't know. With permission from you, the recess should be allowed. If you have the facility and ability, maybe creating fake sandboxes in your front yard or backyard, or creating some, ability to create a castle, or all the things kids did with other kids. Is really what they're missing. So maybe a recess should be a Zoom call with their friends, and they Zoom together while they're all playing in their home playground. The third thing I would say is pack school lunches first thing in the morning. And the school lunch should be eaten by kids by themselves unless you have time. If you have time, then certainly sit with them, no problem. But please do not make lunch at lunchtime, because this is the reality of your children. When they're in school, nobody gives them fresh food. So don't create that kind of epic burden on yourself. And the last thing, no, two more suggestions I have is, one is create and post parent office hours. So what does parent office hour look like is something, something that the kids need to know, that the parents are not available to you infinite amounts during the day, because parents have their own agenda. Even if you're not a working mom or dad, doesn't matter. You schedule, you say from 12 to 2, I'm free. And from 4 to 5:30, I'm free. For office hours, because this is exactly what happens in school. Your kids are used to them having office hours. So don't worry about kind of that creating some kind of awkwardness. And the last thing, which is not going to sit too well with parents, is practice leaving kids alone. This feels very awkward because you're so used to taking care of your kids. And somehow I have 2 grown-up kids in the house, and I came down today at 12 o'clock. I made lunch because I had the podcast. And both my kids said, why did you didn't need to make it for me? And I said, I didn't make, but I just made it for all of us. I mean, I'm just putting that on me. But I think somehow lighten up the load for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think those were great tips. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much, Suchi. I think I'll apply them and get back to you.
Absolutely. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next, but I will have to say that making a bag lunch was the highlight of that. last suggestion, I thought that was pretty awesome. I think maybe I would maybe build a little bit upon what you're just saying, because it sounds like she has a 7-year-old, and some of the suggestions are harder to implement with a my son is in 8th grade and turning 14 in 2 weeks. So I think what I'm experiencing and what I'm asking, what I would love for you to help with is just a little bit of, like, my son is in public school. He has an organized digital learning environment where he's to go to and get information from and stuff, but it's more self, like, he needs to do it himself and then figure out his plan and his schedule. So the digital learning structure for him for his grade level and for where he is supposed to be a little bit more like he needs to be in control of it. So I do give him independence, but then I do see that he's not very structured about it, and that he thinks that, and also you said something about getting up on time. He gets up whenever he wants because he only has about 2 hours worth of work. It doesn't take him very long to actually go through it. And so the structure there is very loose, and it's very hard to get him to feel that this is your day, Monday through Friday, and this is how you should approach it. Does that make sense? So, yeah.
Yes, I think what you're saying makes yes,
Right.
It makes complete sense to me. And I want to point out that whether the child is 7 years old or 17, I would bring in some universalities of education, which is they have schedule and they transition from class to class or content to content and teacher to teacher. So one of the things that if you can imagine is facilitating transitions. And during the pandemic, don't be too aspirational that they're actually receiving full-blown education. To me, one of the biggest things they're missing is a social learning aspect of education. Education is the most promising and amazing and enlightening experience when you are with people and with a teacher, a mentor. But now one person cannot be it all. So one thing I would suggest, my first strategy for you is absolutely go back to the basics of school schedule. Make sure that and this will require some kind of understanding that, honey, you're in a school and the school is Monday through Friday, and I expect you to go to school from 8 o'clock till 3. And what we will do, since your work is only 2.5 hours, why don't we extend your recess? So have the burden on recess as the longer or more flexible time and not sleeping in. I'll tell you why this is really critical, because those parents who are deeply concerned about children's ability, and I have done this for 20 years, able to maintain schedule, the getting up in the morning for preteens and teens is the hardest. So give that practice and don't let out that practice. Second thing is use something called Pomodoro Technique. So Pomodoro is actually a tomato, and an Italian scientist started this technique, but it's a technique of using a timer for 25 minutes. And it's a good time for particularly, it seems to be very effective for forming memories. And the way information processing happens at the brain level, that you take information, you process it, analyze it, and assess it, and then you take a break. And the break can be 10-minute break. And the 10-minute break, which is called, you activate a second system in the brain, which is the default mode network. And during this downtime network, brain connects all the new learning into formulating memory. So children who are not faring too well, teach them the primary and most important focus is to use the timer for 25, 10, 25, 10, 25, 10 rhythm. And 25 minutes of work, 10 minutes of break, 25 minutes of work, 10 minutes of break. Now, what I will suggest, schedule an office hour after 2 cycles of a 25-10 cycle. And in the office hour, you review if the 25-10 technique is effective or not. If it's not effective, then you can intervene. But do not supervise them if they're transitioning during 25-10, 25-10 or not. Now, children who are younger than 10, you might want to supervise that they are diligent about the transitions. But this is a good technique to try. And the last suggestion I have for a little bit older kids is for the digital learning, make sure their tools and gadgets are working, and make sure they know how to navigate. So maybe what you can tell your kid, or maybe set up a Saturday and say, we're going to just review all the techniques about the technology that you're using. Do you know how to operate Zoom? Can you teach me? Ask your kid to teach you the Zoom. Tell your kid that, I am your classmate. How do I post history homework? Show me. Pretend I am your math teacher, and I am looking for your assignment and I can't find it. What should she say to you that will make you turn in your assignment? So do some hypothetical problem solving and pretending you are naive in technology, and have your child give their insight to you, so you know actually what they know and what they don't know.
Thank you. That's great.
All right. Anybody else wants to go?
So we were talking about suggestions. That is it. What we're hoping to hear from you is what we're talking about, or hoping to get from this.
Yeah, no. So if you have any next question about what, have a question that you want to ask about it, and I see that. Bear with us, okay? So I'm seeing a hand up, so I'm going to get to that question as well. So Beth, what's your next question?
Well, you may already going to be address this, but sometimes I find that as a parent, I'm not really switching to self-care, and you maybe are going to address this later in the webinar. I don't know, but.
Sure.
Okay.
So one of the things about self-care, I think what I would love for you to all think about, that self-care has this insinuation that putting yourself first, and that feels selfish, or I don't want to be ignoring my children. And most parents and darling parents that I know, they're very self-sacrificial. So they feel self-care is the last priority. But I always like to imagine the airplane analogy there. When in crisis, when air pressure lowers, put your mask first. And then you can, once you are breathing and you're calm, you can help other kids, help everybody so much more effectively. So I have some ideas for home spa. So think about a concept of home spa. So first of all, I would, if your home permits, and some of you may not have the flexibility or big houses that allows that. I, in fact, was talking to a parent, and we talked about using the closet as a home spa. So what you need is your own place where nobody disturbs you. And put a sign outside, busy, come back in 20 minutes. And teach children not to knock when that sign is flipped. This is kind of common courtesy, by the way, and this is how we socialize with each other. And I just want to remind you, your children are learning about how to effectively socialize from their peers. And during this absentee from peer interactions, the only socializing they're learning is from you. So these etiquettes of turn taking, hanging back, giving somebody a privacy, giving somebody a chance to speak, all those are social skills that are completely missed out if you are the sole provider of all social interactions. So no means no, yes means yes, and not now means not now. So these kinds of, by the way, self-regulatory tricks can really help. So make a sign, put it on your space and say, if this sign is flipped, do not disturb me. And I will tell you the alarm. You put the Pomodoro or timer right outside. It's a history teacher and mom and dad. No, 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 no. You can let them be while you are unavailable, because unless it's crisis, of course, be available. But without a crisis, you can always say, I am not available right now. I'll be right back. This is done in effort to take care of your needs, prioritize your work, and also to anchor yourself from in sound thinking place. Because when you're sound, a lot of research talks about this, by the way, that mothers, it's called emotional contagion. Mother's temperament seems to have incredible effect in children's ability to manage their own anxiety. So if the mom gives that impression that my anxiety is under control, she is creating an emotional contagion of peace, calm, and serenity that children feel it's going to be okay. And a few more things: cultivate mindfulness practices. In the handout that I'm going to provide you, I'm going to link you some guided meditation sites that you can easily listen to and follow. There's some guided meditation for children that I'll include as well. And one of my favorite self-care is bring back naps. Please take a nap. Enjoy naps. This is so important. You know what? One of the recess is naps. So Wednesday, you have a longer recess and all of you take 2-hour nap. Everybody in the house. And the rule is you may not be sleepy. You don't want to sleep. You're going to lay in your bed and you're not going to talk. So cultivate this. Again, this is a culture you're creating. You're teaching your children how to rest well. By the way, when you do that, I promise you, this seems like a non-educational skill, but this is called self-regulatory skill. This is how create you emotional tempo within yourself so that you can handle your own stresses. And the last strategy I have, prayers, chanting, and any spiritual reading that you do that anchors you, let your children see it. Don't do it this part of self-care in private. Teach your children to wait while you are meditating. You are reading your prayers. When you are watching a spiritual class online and you have headsets, and you let your children see you take care of you. This is a really important way to educate your children regarding needs and careful ways of assessing internal temperature gauging. Give me 1 second. Is there a question? Did somebody raise a question? All right. Okay. We don't have any questions. Oh, who wants to go?
I can go next. So, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, as you know, Suchi, and they're very different. What activities can I have my 5-year-old do by himself?
Go ahead.
They're not fighting all the time.
guess she's frozen.
Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, I think is she frozen only for me or is she frozen?
Forever, yeah. Forever.
Okay, for everyone. Okay.
Try stopping your video for a moment.
Me?
Not yet, Sachi. Brandy suggesting stopping your video and then restarting it.
No, you to like take your video.
Oh, me? Okay.
It's not working.
Well, while we're figuring out what's going on with Sucheta, I did want to comment. I love that home spa idea. I've really not done a good job of carving out a space for myself, whether it be for working or playing. I'm used to being the only one in my home a good bit of the time, and so I haven't had to do that. So I really need to do that. I love that idea.
Yeah, agreed. I've been trying to do it more in terms of like getting that walk in, every day, or, trying to get my kid to take a walk with me, which is always hard, but really saying like, okay, I'm going for a walk. This is what I need. But I like the further aspects of trying to show and model, making sure that I'm also modeling for my kid that he sees that I'm taking care of myself in a different way. I think is kind of important how she described it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, Beth and Brandy. Thanks to Suchi, who I met right before this COVID pandemic started, she had recommended doing this and that's why every time I come back from a walk, I describe to the kids how it's making me feel so much better. I really enjoy being in nature, enjoy breathing the fresh air because we're cooped up at home all day long. And just talking to them about it, I think will help them gain interest in putting that into their life maybe in the future. So I love that. Even whatever spiritual practices you are, if you're doing it to better yourself, talking to your kids about it and how you feel after it, I mean, I think that's an amazing insight, because my memories of any practices that I put in today are of learning, which I got from some adult in my life who had that. So whether it's walks or whether it's meditating.
Nice.
Right.
I'm trying to think back in my life as to what I would do with a 5-year-old right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you mamas out there of small children.
I keep thinking about my sister-in-law who had a baby during this pandemic. So I'm just like, okay, I'm a much better spot than that. Having a newborn with no help, it's crazy.
Well, it's funny because when Sucheta was mentioning setting up the boundaries of some of them are physical, some of them are more like laying the guidelines for the day, it sounds like. And I have really let that go. And this has given me some great concrete ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I because I'm listening so intently, I need the notes going back for some of them for sure. I don't know.
You have to watch it again tonight, Brandy.
Yeah.
Take notes.
Yeah, one of the ideas which I think really stuck out to me is the office hours. I mean, I think you have older kids, so that's different. But for me, my child, if I give her any assignment, being a 7-year-old or the 5-year-old, it's within 2 minutes, they're at my desk, how do I do this? Like, there is no individual thinking, but I think the office hours is like place where I can be completely present to them and give them all my attention, but then they know that this is time bound. So I think that's really good. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
How do you think your kids are dealing with this emotionally?
That was probably one of the next questions that I might ask Sucheta. She mentioned that Newton, used his curious mind, was creating all these things. I feel like my son's curious mind is being wasted on Xbox. And the unfortunate part is that is his social outlet. So I, as a parent, have struggled with my very, very, very social child who normally, gets all this energy from school and basketball and after school activities and sort of has this schedule and way to, socialize, now is just left with this whole idea of like socializing online, which is important. But what I found is that he is taking all of that energy to the Xbox and this social time, and there's like zero time like that he's been spending on other things. Like he doesn't really want to go outside all of a sudden and play basketball, which he normally always does, or he doesn't really want to, I don't know. It's very strange how he's just shifted his energies. And so I don't think he's expressed that vocally, but I think that I've seen the emotional difference that that's created upon him and his, intensity towards those sessions of being with his friends, And so I see Sucheta is back. My question to you, Sucheta, would be, how do you, yesterday was the one moment in time where my son decided randomly, because he was punished, so he didn't have his phone fully, but he went and outside and solicited if anybody wanted their car washed. So he washed somebody's car and, had all the stuff and everything. And I feel like it's small spurts of energy and engagement as opposed to feeling like that's something he should do each day. It's more random because the focus of his world is literally, when can I get to that next Xbox session, which is social, but and how do I'm having a hard time like monitoring that.
So let me see if I understand, and I apologize, everyone. I think I'm not even sure why the internet just crashed. So I'm sorry if I missed some. I could hear you all, but I guess you couldn't see me.
Yeah.
And you couldn't hear me either. So thank you for that question. So sounds like one question that how to get your own kids' skin in the game. How can we get them to engage in and take interest in their own education or learning? And also kind of monitor or take advantage of these bursts of energy that go into doing something because there's a reward waiting, correct?
Yes. Exactly.
So my first thing is I want to kind of give you a little bit of a framework. So National Scientific Council of Developing Child has identified 3 kinds of stress. Okay, one is called positive stress, and that's normal and essential part of healthy development. So a stress a child feels when you're giving him a shot, let's say. The child panics because a shot is going to come, but shot is very important part of staying healthy. Similarly, let's say you are preparing for a test and the test preparation creates a lot of anxiety, but then you take the test, it's gone. So there's a positive stress that creates a spurt of growth. Second is a tolerable stress. The difference between positive and tolerable, it's a little bit longer lasting, and the difficulties are longer and lasting difficulties. And however, there's still end in sight. The third type of stress is called toxic stress. And very distinctive characteristic of toxic stress is it is intense, frequent, and ongoing or long-lasting difficult events. So you yourself think about this. This pandemic is certainly not a positive stress. So now you and I, as parents, have only 2 choices. Can we make our children experience tolerable stress or toxic stress? So I would certainly invite you all to think about, and particularly those parents who are raising children with any type of diagnosis or challenges in learning, such as ADHD or spectrum disorder, autism spectrum disorder, or maybe learning disorder, anxiety disorder, or maybe eating disorder, or sleep disorder. I want all of us to think that make your children's stress tolerable. I think it is not essential that they accomplish things. One of the best things our school and government has done is taken away grades. So why not take away? The children are going to graduate this year. Nobody's going to paint banners all over the country or world saying that I graduated 8th grade or something like that. So take it easy. So lower the expectations without lowering the standard. So what I mean by that, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I think the one thing that's kind of been a mixed message to my kid is because they took away those grades, he doesn't have he's like, well, I made 5 A's and 2 B's last semester, so that's what they're going to take. I don't really need to do much here. Zero skin in the game. So I'll just wake up at 10. I'll do the work like you're asking, but I'm not really that concerned. So it's good, but it's.
I'll give you an example of when my son was in high school. My older son, he was taking AP. He was taking 3 APs. And one of the things started happening in the house is he stopped coming for dinners. He said, I have AP Chem exam, so I can't. I have AP Calculus or whatever, a test or quiz coming up, so I can't. So what we did is we crafted something called AP Home. And so I started telling my kid, advanced placement home class, you're failing. So you may be getting an A in AP Chem, but I'm sorry, you're getting a D. Or an F for your AP parenting. So I would definitely structure an AP home class. I'm making this up. You don't even need to call, but call a home class. And you need to tell your kids. So I have a few suggestions for you. For number one is write down the why of school. Why education and schooling is important. Have your child write it, and then you write it, and convert that why into a purpose statement. The purpose of me completing my 8th grade is blah, 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 blah. Purpose of me helping you complete your 8th grade is blah, 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 blah. Purpose of me helping you complete your 2nd grade is, doesn't matter. So it could be a very simplistic so that we can have a wonderful summer. I mean, that can be a great incentive to complete 8th grade education so that my teachers are not worried about me. That can be a great purpose. So that my mom feels excited to have me at home, even though I'm in school. So get them out of themselves. I heard this wonderful saying that a self-consumed, a person who is self-consumed makes a very small package, So I think we need to really get kids out of themselves. Don't make it about grades, but do make it about an experience of learning to work with difficulties. So I would call this COVID-19 class. So you're taking English, science, math, and COVID-19 class. And you're not passing COVID-19 class. You may have B's and A's. Last semester, you did not have COVID-19 class. So make sure you mention that, and maybe to come up with 5 ways to pass COVID-19 class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
And last thing I will say, ask school or research teachers for specific help. So don't make it all about you solving all the problems. Recruit help from others and enjoy and celebrate small wins with your kid. If he wants to play Xbox, great. Use Xbox as an incentive. Do not hate Xbox. If he's doing too much Xbox, then again, going back to the school schedule. If he has free time, please allow him to use Xbox. It's okay.
Yes, but my son, ADHD son, always pushes the limit. So 2 hours turns into 4 hours, and 4 hours turns into
internet, baby, internet. I will tell you one quick thing. Change the code of internet. Contact your AT&T provider, privatize or personalize the code. You can create 2 codes, one for a child and one for you. So you can log in while they cannot log in. So completely maintain the control, cut off internet at 10 o'clock. These are all digital hygiene, I call it. Digital hygiene habits are really, really important. You be the queen of internet password. He can do whatever he wants to do, but if he doesn't have internet, he cannot play with his friends. So then he will have to play with some other ways. He can play, but not the way he wants. So you have a lot of autonomy there to help him regulate himself. All right. Did we lose Beth? I'm sorry because of all this chaos.
I'm here.
Do you have any questions? Oh, there you are.
Sorry about that. Well, my question was very similar to Brandy's. It's just how to get them, and you really just answered it, to bring to quit fighting online school and quit fighting online school.
Yeah, I think like one thing you mentioned that I want to kind of quickly bring a reference to a wonderful concept that is proposed in a book called Being a Brain Wise, Being a Brain Wise Therapist. And it's written by Bonnie Bubonic, I think that's her name. But she talks about two concepts. One is called neural cement and neural swamp. So think about so what do we want? We neither want neural cement, not neural swamp. I think your aspiration for your children from now until next September or August is to build the most resilient brains in your children. And how do you do that? Is number one, the neural cement is incredible inflexibility and rigidity and unwillingness to cope or work their style or change their style or be able to work with limitations. And the neural swamp is having incredible chaos where no learning can be retained over time. So brain is optimally functioning when there's actually incredible even keel environment. So what you can do is create even keel environment where expectations are gingerly tweaked. They're not given up, but they are tweaked. And focus is on developing self-reliant, independent thinking, self-managing kids. And they may be managing very little. They may be only managing math and not science, but that's okay as long as they are managing. And the last thing I will say about that resilience, resilient thinking is going back to this idea that not everything is important. Not everything is important. So let me give you some suggestions for all of you to think about. Okay, so this can work for kids who are not engaged or they already have a summer mode. This can work for parents who have different age groups, one kid in elementary, one in middle school, one in high school. This can work for kids who actually, when they're in the same room, they fight, but they function a lot better when they're by themselves. So first thing I would do is create a menu based on activities your kids like. So have your kids write down 10 things they like to do, or categories, not even activities. And in that category, have them generate two ideas that they would like to do. Then based on that, build activity centers in the house. And this is like a Montessori principle. And it's so sad that we do that from pre-kindergarten to second grade maybe, and then we stop. But imagine having activity center. By the way, one thing you will have to learn to deal with during that time is to tolerate some chaos in the house or disarray, but that's fine. Activity center is a art center in one corner, reading center in one corner, a play center in one corner, digital gaming in one corner. Now what you're doing is timer. Schedule a timer where the kids need to practice switching from activity center to activity center. Now, I don't mean this to do this all the time, and I don't mean this as a you be the boss, but they decide which activity they're going to switch from and switch to. But you both come to an agreement that 25 minutes, I want you to learn to work with that activity uninterrupted. Now, it is totally okay if they don't want to give up the activity and continue with it. But as I said, 3:30, bell rings, school stops, activity center stops, and then family life begins. So you need to kind of, another one suggestion I have for you is have clothing that symbolizes time where they are. So create two categories of clothing, school clothing and home clothing. So from 8 o'clock till 3:30, they need to wear school clothing. This is really shown to have incredible impact on psyche, because you are creating a kind of a code that you have to switch. So this kind of helps code switching. And then at the end of the class or end of the day, they change into home clothes. And they may be PJs, they may be goofy clothes, or they may be onesies or something funny. You can even like have you know how we in office, we have casual Friday. So you can have a Halloween day. Every week, one day is a Halloween week. They can dress up as whoever, they can be ninjas or fairies if they want, or a girl can be a ninja and a boy can be a fairy. It doesn't matter. What we are trying to do is give them the autonomy and creative nudge, but they need to regulate that. And the rule is when the school is over, you need to change into your home clothes. So that can create an end. And the last thing I will say about you parents yourselves, I think it's really important that you understand your own personal needs a little bit more deeply. I think having children home 24/7 can disrupt your relationship with your spouse or your loved ones. And I mean, I have my mother who also lives with me, and just having everybody home, I feel I just don't have enough time to take care. So suddenly I feel so burdened by having to take care. Well, nobody wants to be taken care. They're fine. But have some special day. So same thing, a date night with your spouse. Children are not allowed to disturb the date night. So they are with the babysitter, and then you have a television as your babysitter. By the way, this used to be the way people had a babysitter. But so don't feel guilty that when you go to a kitchen or children are in the bedroom and you are having a wine and watching a show, or vice versa. This idea that people do need socializing in a very particular way can be extremely invigorating. So I think we are coming to the end of our talk. I am going to quickly check if there are any questions, but I want to kind of give you some summary, a summary overview. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes.
Yes, for me.
Yes. Lots of
Great.
great ideas.
Lots of
And
really
was that helpful?
things to just
Yeah.
think about, for sure.
Very.
Great, great. All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
Much work, Sucheta.
Sorry.
Now we have a whole new thing to do, all this new work that we have to incorporate into it.
Yes. Well, I don't want you to think again that you have to do anything extra or more. I just want you to know that you just have to change or shift your focus and prioritize in a different way. So don't take this on as in one more thing. In fact, my highest recommendation is do less. Less is fantastic. And do few things, but do them really well, and that's plenty. Do not. So look at my first suggestion. Don't try to become your child's teacher. Please do not try to play that role. It's a very difficult role to. There are many teachers who are teaching your child. One parent cannot teach many subjects, many things. So leave that up to the teachers, and you be the wonderful parent you can be. Second thing, leave kids alone. It's not such a bad thing. You have a safe home environment. You can put some parental restriction on YouTube and some of the websites. You can do parent control, but other than that, the kids should have some liberty to be unsupervised. And that's actually, research shows that is a very important part of building resiliency and a sense of agency. Create and post office hours. As I said, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not be available to your children 24/7. And please do not think I'm evil or mean. I genuinely mean you will be far more effective advisor if you're available less. And this will also kind of nudge kids to do some problem solving on their own. So this is really also important. Next, identify free time and structure free choice. Have a list of things and laminate it or post it on your fridge, and they have 10 things that they can choose from, and have them check it off as they go along. So they should not come to you for ideas. They should know the ideas that they have thought about, that you have supported, endorsed, and they can do it by themselves. With older kids, those who love gaming, I would certainly say, after you finish your gaming, I need some screenshot to show me your wins and losses, and tell me what happened and why did you win, why did you lose, and how was this experience enjoyable. What you're doing, this is called meta process, which is thinking about thinking. So there is a mindlessness that can be built into playing games, or incredible awareness built into playing games. And do not dismiss the balance of the two, and you don't need to monitor everything your kids do. By the way, one suggestion I have, do not put their televisions or their devices in their rooms. Make them in public spaces, and their back should be facing you. This is a really important part of developing a mutualized trust in the house. So you should be able to see what they do. If you're passing by from upstairs to the kitchen to get some water, you should be able to see it. Next, let your kids see that you got work. Work ferociously, take some calls, answer some emails in front of them, show them the number of emails you attach, show them your to-do list, print a to-do list and do a check, or call your kids and say, why don't you do checks for my last 5 items? I just knocked them out. I think it's really important that they see the wholesome you, not a parent you, but a worker you, a wife you, a daughter you, or you just who needs and deserves to have fun. So work is an integral part of that. Prioritize self-care by limiting your own work hours. I am guilty of that. I don't know how you feel about this. I am not too good. As I said, my days and nights are bleeding. I'm also taking some spiritual classes at night, and I put away work and those classes begin and I'm saturated. I have no time to digest what I have learned, digest what I have heard, digest what I have talked about. So this digesting time is really crucial time. That's when most of the consolidation in the memory happens. So allow your brain to do its work by going into a quiet mode. Maybe remove technology from your bedroom or your sleeping space. I created a charging station far away from my bed, so that I have to, in fact, not have phone, not have iPad, not have laptop next to my head. So that has really, really helped. And I'm not still successful, but I'm doing meditation first thing in the morning for 30 minutes. And I'm co-partnering with a friend. So every day we do that at 7:30 to 8. And then I touch my computer, so that's become an automatic barrier. And then remember, calm is contagious. This is my favorite message for you all, that you are amazing, brilliant, bright, caring, darling people. Your kids are very lucky to have you as parents, and everything you're doing already is above and beyond. So please just chill, hang back, let life kind of seep in, just enjoy the small things. Don't try to make a perfect meal. Don't overdo it. So with that, I think I'm going to leave you a few minutes to see if you want to make a comment or two. What are you thinking?
Suchi, thank you so much. That was amazing. I mean, wonderful tips. I think I have a lot of things that I can take home right now, but I love the way you ended it. Calm is contagious. You know, we always think of stress and anxiety as contagious, but being calm will make everyone around us. And as you said, I mean, that's what we want for our kids, right? So it's amazing. Thank you so much. Lots of great tips. I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree.
That reminds me, I didn't even mention this, but, and guys, forgive me for those who are sending some questions in chats and I haven't answered them or looked at them. Can you type the book title? Okay, I will send that in the handout that you're going to get. I want to kind of tell you something very, very important that I'm going to share with you. It's called Unactivity. It's an activity that I have created that promotes executive function. The most important principle there is agency. So I hope you all take a minute to read the instructions, personalize it for your family, and play this game. And it's a kind of shoots and ladders of game, but it's personalized. And I have written down why this kind of thinking is really essential for your children to know how to kind of engage with you, how to participate in something that doesn't feel forced, doesn't feel that you are in charge of them or the boss of them. And finally, don't forget to have fun, love your kids, be the fantastic mamas and papas that you are. Get a pat on your back. And if nobody has done that, that's my first pat on your back, that you're fabulous, you're gorgeous, you're amazing. Everything you're doing for your children already is above and beyond. So please stay in that place of incredible calmness and confidence, and they will learn a lot from you.
Thank you so much, Sucheta.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to the handout and the activities. Okay? Bye,
Amazing.
everyone.
Thank you, Suchi. Bye.
Thank you. All right.
Bye. Check it out.